I'm just gonna turn it over to, okay, to Mr. Sund.
Okay,
And it's a work session, so questions, don't wait for me.
run into some issues with the Western Loop project. I guess I gotta assume that the thought process originally was that we would have all of the easements in line by the time contract was signed. But we only have 5 out of 28. And I am not sure when we'll get the permission from the county. That's not clear, but if we're running this down a right of way, getting county approval is really. As is getting all of these easements from the individual property owners. I'm not clear exactly what all the easements are for, and that's something I still have to look into, and the reason is, if you're running this thing down the right of way, why do you need easements? That's confusing. There are a few property owners where we are clearly crossing their property, and then that's a whole different thing. That's really clear that easements have to be gotten for that.
Are they looking for permanent easements or just temporary construction easements for like staging of materials maybe?
No, there's, some of them are construction based because we have to lay the line. But then the line's going to be there for a long time. The difference is the ones where we are actually digging pipeline in, they want like 60-foot easements, and then it converts to a 20-foot easement once it's in.
Gotcha.
Talking about the county or individuals? So
Or probably both.
do we have the ability to project the plan? Does Sam have, I only say that because I think it'd be interesting for everybody to see exactly what makes this so complicated. Do you have, Sam, do you have it to project? Which, the Western Loop proposal? And I mean, it was interesting to me because it was new for me to look at the whole thing, other than we have seen in Stefan's, one of his quarterly reports, he had a large map of what's going on, but this is really in big pieces and it's quite complicated. And as I understand it, right now, a lot of people have pipes going through their private property that will be abandoned. But you have to be able to get to those pipes in order to shut them off and turn the water into the other.
Well, they'll lay the whole pipe and then they'll disconnect the ends.
But they'll have to get in to people's property
Yeah,
to do the disconnect.
well, not necessarily, it depends on
Really?
where the line is at the beginning and the end.
But the easements are on private property.
Some are in some cases, I don't know if why we need an easement if we're putting in somebody's service line, because the current line is in a different alignment than the proposed line. So we may have to move some.
Well, they have to get hooked up to the main line.
Yeah, but they're hooked up to the main line right now.
No, when the new main
So
line, I
the
mean, there
new
has to
one-
be an abandonment, and then they're
But
gonna
the
have
new
to.
one is in an entirely different alignment.
Yeah.
Right, no, I get that, but I'm trying to understand, the reason for the easement is that there will have to be some construction. From,
And some of
to get
those
to their
easements,
meter.
some of the easements, I think logically are going to be construction easements, because when it's done, the service line becomes their property, not town's.
I don't understand that, anyway,
Everybody owns the line that's on their
from
property.
their property, but there has to be a way to get across people's private property to be able to put the line into the.
Yeah, but
new
right,
pipeline.
what's happening is, like, say right now, you have a 20-acre piece of property. And the current line's on the south end of the property, we're putting it on the north end of the property.
Mhm.
That's a lot of service line that we're going to have to put in
So-
to get to the other end.
So wouldn't that be the reason for the easement?
It may be in some cases that becomes a temporary easement, and then when it's over, they own the line. They have to
Yeah,
maintain it after.
But you have to go dig up in their personal property to get this new line.
To get
Right.
to where the old curb box
Yeah.
is.
Anyway, it's,
So who's getting the easements? Is that Public Works or is that one of our engineers?
Public Works has been doing it, and The engineers typed up the easements. I have our attorney looking at one of them just to see if he agrees with the language that's in it. And they don't have legal descriptions in that.
The one you sent me did,
Did it?
yes. It had two provisions towards the end. It was only 7 pages, but there were two, I want to call them, they weren't parcels, but there were two separate sets of township range and center. So anyway, that's the only one I've seen, but I'd heard that the meets and bounds were kind of, getting those right were a bit of an issue.
And we just need all of them because you can't have a contractor starting and stopping a project in all sorts of different places. Once they start, you gotta let them work.
So what is preventing this from happening? Cause I mean, this is hugely concerning to me. If we have 5 out of 28, this is what killed the Fifth and Grand realignment. Was not getting.
Well, no, it's going, that's all good.
Right, but it was delayed.
It took a
by-
long time.
Took a while to get everybody to agree.
And every time we
I
get
honestly
responsible-
think that the town would be better served having an attorney acquiring easements.
Okay.
Because when they write a letter to somebody, you tend to open a letter from an attorney. And in some cases, these easement documents have been sent to the property, and so a renter gets it, not the owner.
Okay.
And that doesn't help you very much. They may not even keep the document, or they may not give it to the owner.
In the case that they may dispute where the town wants to put it and they have their own attorney, it would also be better to be corresponding from a legal perspective.
So it would cost money, but I think it would get it done quicker.
So just so I understand from what you said to us in the letter you wrote. Where are we in the process and what are you proposing we do to change the process at this point in time?
We have to clearly determine whether the easement documents are typed up work from a legal perspective, because I don't know if our attorney has reviewed any of it yet. And if that works out, then I think it would be good to have an attorney send that document to the owner of record of property. And follow up and do what attorneys do and make sure that people are responding to them, and if they're not, figure out a different way to get a hold of them. But when we have staff doing it, they're doing it on the days that they have an open calendar. And so it's hit and miss kind of stuff. It's not that they're not dedicated to it, but they have other things they have.
Well, I think Respect had a lot of the responsibility too, and I don't know what exactly was going on there, but they were doing a lot of it.
It's my understanding, Public Works was working on interfacing with property owners to get approval for easements.
And they are doing that. They're going to property owners and talking to them. There's some of them that just don't want to talk to them right now. There's people who don't trust the town and
Right. There was some
Engage.
disputes. Yeah.
So Sam, I was wondering if you could scroll down, there are some diagrams that are like, they are the particular property and it's just filled with lines of old pipeline, new pipeline. I don't know where it is in the document, you may have to scroll, but that's when I was looking through, well, for instance, the easement you shared with me did have an aerial photo showing where everything needed to be.
yeah,
And it was really complicated.
that comes with each easement.
Yeah, so, and that all comes out of this document.
So I guess I'm just expressing some surprise that we put out a bid before we've secured so many easements.
Yeah, I think there was a big misunderstanding is all I know. Because I had no idea. I thought there were 5 left. But I was never in a meeting. I was shocked to hear there was only 5 that had been provided. So there was something wasn't being communicated.
Or miscommunicated.
Yeah.
Because that was kind of my understanding too, that we had most of them. The
Yeah.
majority, and we were still
And-
waiting for.
I was just like, oh, what?
And it was not clear who was actually responsible for.
I can't say.
Right.
I can't say because I'm not part of those meetings, but it certainly seems like there was poor communication.
Wasn't our water attorney working on?
No,
this?
No.
I assume that,
No.
and maybe that That's my fault.
Yeah, now neither Sheila nor Bill were working on this, so it's kind of like, for me, it's like Greg said, it's time to just get all this done. And then you might want to talk about contractors, timing on getting more contractors.
And
Do we have a map of the whole thing somewhere? Okay.
she showed,
The
the
map
map
of the-
right at the beginning of the whole project.
Yeah, the beginning one, if you want to see the whole thing, you have to scroll up. No, what I was talking about is there are individual properties, well, this is kind of a start.
But it gets really involved.
Yeah, but
So,
if you wanna see the main, I think you'll have to go back up to the top to see the whole project. I know, and this is only how many, 300 pages?
48, this one,
This one, okay,
Just-
oh, these
this is a whole stack of documents.
These drawings I was thinking about may not be in this document, I didn't realize it was in pieces. So,
Yes, hold on, I'm trying to zoom it in so you can see it.
thank you.
So there's been two alignments in this during the planning process. One of them didn't follow right of ways as much as this one's doing. And so it was thought that following right of ways from especially a maintenance perspective in the future will make it way easier. Because you won't have to enter as many people's properties.
but I was I drove that road yesterday, because I was thinking, I drive that road a lot, but not looking at it. So it seems like there are a lot of driveway aprons that will have to either be dug up and put back, or,
Well, depending on the side of the road that the.
right, and exactly, and there's some on either side, and and I don't know what side of the road they're looking at. And some have a lot of right of way, others don't have much, I don't know if they're gonna, anyway.
There's also a section of the project where there is no right of way. The people own the property all the way across the road.
Right, I
So
saw
they actually own the street.
I assumed that our current distribution line coming down from our storage tank has easements. And the easements we needed to acquire was only when we're gonna change the site.
But we're moving almost the whole line. It's
So
not in the
not
same
moving
easement.
it the same.
Trying to get out of all that private property.
Right, that's what I thought. We were just trying to move it into the public right of ways off of private.
And you find in that process that the county has requirements for where they think you should put the line and where you shouldn't put the line. And in some cases, if you put it too close to the edge of the right of way, then you're going to be using people's property to bury it, because you gotta make it right.
Or drainage.
So how many easements are on county, or you might not know this off the top of your head, but how many are on county property and how many are private? And how many are like significantly off of the right of way where we're gonna be creating an infraction like through private property that.
There are 28 easements that are necessary.
Right.
Plus the county right of way.
Right, oh, okay, so
And
that's
those
an
are
addition.
Those 28
Those
easements
28 are
are
private.
all.
All, okay, and then it's an additional county right of way. On top of that,
Yes.
and then do you have an idea of like how many are? Gonna be, intersecting private property?
We're going to keep this as much in the right of way as possible according to the design. But I think primarily the easements are probably for service lines. Where we're getting onto the property and connecting.
Connected now to like what?
Person to the
Yeah.
gate, our
So those would be construction based, because when the construction's over, it's a service line on their property and they can own it.
Right.
But because we're totally moving the location, we can't ask them to, we're gonna move the line, so
You
you
have-
gotta come to us.
Right.
It just, that's not. very good.
So most of the easements that we need on private property are just to connect to the new route.
Probably in most cases,
Okay.
but
Right,
there are a few that cross property.
and
There was two, one in residence. And then another one.
Well, just a little bit. Other way, I'm sorry. This right here is a piece that crosses private property.
Yeah,
And so that's not following, and the reason that it's not is apparently there's just tons of power lines and other things in that easement that they just couldn't deal with.
so that's,
Landboard Mesa Road, is
Yeah.
that where the old, up to the old 1 million gallon tank? Is that what that is?
Well, it's up, this is where we start.
Of the ones that haven't been secured, do you know how many have we, or at least in communication with?
We've been talking to most all of them. Some of them don't want to talk to us.
Right.
And so they're saying they haven't received the easement document, or even when you hand it to them, they don't keep it.
Okay,
So there's people who are saying,
it's like.
I've been promised by the town that they're gonna do this for the last 40 years. I've been here, and more often than not, I end up fixing it afterward. So there's lack of trust.
So we're generally in communication with everyone, but it's like varying stages of responsiveness or.
Yes.
Okay.
But there are several that have just said, no, I'm not signing anything. We need to communicate to them that this is probably your service line, so if you don't want this easement, you don't get any water,
Right,
because we're moving the line.
That's what I think our approach should be. It's like, do you want water?
Yeah,
And we have to connect you to the transmission
and
line.
that's really what's happening here, that I'm not sure that that's being completely,
Understood by the customer.
And one of the other things that was coming up, just what I was hearing is people are kind of like, well, what are you gonna, are you gonna clean it up after you're done?
and
I
that
think the
is
town
something.
is saying, yes,
Yes, we'll totally repair whatever gets damaged.
yeah, like the ground, there'll be some seeding or whatever, so.
But there are people who generally don't understand right of ways and how wide they are. So there's a lot of them that have a fence on the right of way.
Yeah.
And we're gonna end up dealing with that in some way, shape, or form.
I wondered about that. There are a lot of fences pretty close to the road. And as I'm driving it yesterday going, wonder if has this all been surveyed? I wonder if that's,
Because
really.
the right of way is 40 feet on either side of the center. So it's an 80-foot wide right of way, which
and is
is,
that the town or the county?
that's the count.
Can we like get ahead of it and publish a map or point people to a map of right away? So there's some public communication, like the town of Paonia is part of this project is, public, like republishing or putting this map up for you all to look to see, understand right of way and where it intersects with your property.
I think, well, there's a map going out with the easement document that shows exactly where their property is and where the line lies.
Okay, that's great, and I assumed it would be, I think my suggestion might be that we also do something on the website, because sometimes people talk a lot in this town, and having something public so everyone can see, oh, indeed, here's the county right of way map may just help create a sense of shared understanding.
This
Yes, like
that gives an overview of the whole thing.
yeah,
Some of the other things that wasn't picked up when they were sent out originally, that it's very common for a husband and wife to jointly own property. And in some cases, the easement was sent out with one person's name on it. So if you do that 3 or 4 times, you start to lose trust even more. So a lot of that's just a matter of checking the county records and seeing how the property is listed. And I think in some cases, those mistakes were made, and now we're kind of recovering from it.
That's kind of the story of the water system anyway. The maintenance has been deferred because run into a roadblock and say, oh, we'll put this off, we'll do that in the future. And then pretty soon years go by.
That's actually pretty typical in America. It's not just here. It's like it's kind of a joke, but I like to tell people, if you replace the plumbing in your house, would you have a party and say, come and see my plumbing? It's just not an exciting thing for most people. So when you're putting in water lines or sewer lines, as long as they work, nobody cares. It's when they stop working.
That's the message I think that has to be conveyed to them, because the old system is breaking down.
Yes.
And we want to tell them, if we need to do this, because the old system isn't working like it should.
Well, and it's, even if it's not breaking, it gets to an age where it could any given day.
Yeah, the pressure is just really not
And
right.
it's a source of a lot of leaks. I wish, so I went with Stefan to Eaton, Colorado, when we had to bring the presentation to get $1 million to put towards the Western Loop. And he brought a chunk of the pipe to be replaced. He didn't touch it with his bare hands, because I wouldn't either. And I just wish we still had that piece of pipe. I think it just got lost in the shuffle. It was unbelievable. It was completely rusted with holes throughout. And that's what's up there. And that's where a lot of the leaks have been taking place for years, is
And
that
that's-
pipe.
It's probably some kind of iron.
Yeah, I mean, it was disgusting. And I think having that prop, so we got $1 million amongst a lot of communities who did not get the money. So we did.
I think
Keep
people
that help.
know that the system is not in good shape. I think what we need to convey is our seriousness and imminence of this project. Like, we have the money lined up, we have the engineers lined up, the plans lined up. This is the final piece. We know that you've heard this story many times before, but it's actually gonna happen this time,
And it will fix whatever is damaged.
right?
You're thinking of a really pretty major PR campaign. So everybody who uses water understands.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it necessarily, I think it's a great idea to like put a more public, just to give the public updates about where we are with the project anyways, beyond the water work session. But I think in our specific communications with the landowners that we're trying to get easements from, particularly those that are not as willing to cooperate, that should be a strong message. It's like, we know that you've been disappointed before. This time it's different. Here's why it's different. We have the money in order, we have the right people, et cetera, et cetera.
The plans are made and just.
Right, and then, of course, we need to convey like the how this is gonna personally impact them. This is how we're gonna deliver water to your home, so that's important.
I think also to your point about public awareness, Mayor Page, I do think people are taking the text.gov more seriously. And I think with the fires, more people have signed up for it.
I think you're right. Ruben didn't hear, but I think you're right.
Yeah, and my guess is that if we were to put the plans and the link to the county right of way map on the website in a prominent location and do a text.gov alert, like this project is moving and underway. Please, like, the project for the West Main Loop is underway, financials have been approved, final easements are now being sought. Like, please visit this for full information. I do think it would kind of lend the tone of seriousness. And then if people had a link that they could go and look at everything in one place, it would show we do have these things lined up, we do have the funding lined up, we do have the plans. And that might be a way to just kind of make a formal, like, what I was trying to suggest, which is like, hey, everybody, this thing is here, you can look at it, it's happening, kind of thing. And to your point, I think Administrator Sund is just the seriousness of it and having something on there that also says that we're committed to fixing leaks and we'll be committed to providing water, and part of that service is fixing it, and here's the town's fiduciary responsibility so that we can be offensive. I don't mean offensive, I mean offensive in our approach to trying to rebuild that trust.
This is a big project, and the more information we can get out about it, the better.
Yeah.
It's a matter of curating a little bit.
The other thing too is timing is a huge issue when you bid projects. And so when this one was bid in June, by far, the majority of contractors have their whole summer already tied up by that point. And you're going to have a fairly small number of bidders who are able to do a project at that time. They may have had a project that they thought they had that got dropped or something like that, but that's not the majority of that. If that happened to a contractor every year, they wouldn't be a contractor.
Ethel, go ahead with your question.
I have I need to ask for some clarification. If these property owners refuse to let you access their land, or I don't know how to put it, can they refuse?
Well,
I don't know.
They can, the other side of it is if the town
there are legal.
wanted to take
processes.
another pact, it could go after the property, but it becomes what's called a taking.
Eminent domain, yeah.
And then you end up in court if you can't settle it. So it's not an inexpensive process.
So I understand what you're trying to do is get them on our side, on this side of getting the project done.
Well, the more we can deal with just talking to people instead of doing the legal round of it, it makes for a more successful outcome for everybody.
So the right of ways that you have now, you're basically not able to use them, because it sounds like you're just replacing old, like if this is the old pipe, you're replacing the old pipe with new pipe. Why can't it run in conjunction with the established right of way already?
The new pipe is following the right of way, the old pipe did not. So it
Private.
went across private property.
County right of way as much as possible, so we won't have access issues, and that is changing the line where it is.
So for, like your point is, for all these people, as far as I understand it, if they want water, they need to allow this work to be done on their property, so they have a service line to their house.
I mean, I understand that, it's just that it seems
I
like
don't know if they get it.
it's been broken.
Yeah.
And,
Well-
and what can you do?
Yes. Yeah.
Might come down to it.
There's some areas where we're going to be boring the pipe instead of open cutting it in order to avoid damaging trees or different things like that. So we're trying to do the right thing in laying the line and making sure that it's done with minimal impact where possible.
So I had a resident come up to me the other day and say, well, we are fine where it is now, but we just don't want them to move it. And so I just, that was what I got from them, and I didn't know quite how to respond. Is there a justification besides following the right of way for the new line placement, or is that the main justification?
Yeah, easements, you have to get permission. I had talked to a longtime resident who actually worked in a different town, and he came back and he had given permission to have the line go across the south end of his property. And he was gone for weeks, he came back and he found that it had, like, sort of like on the map, it went diagonally across a field of his. And he was surprised at that when he got back, and he just kind of said, oh, what the hell? But then it had already been done.
What is this referring to?
The water,
No, the original water line?
yes, the one.
Oh, it was put in 50 years ago?
Yes.
Oh, so 50 years ago, yeah.
Well.
Yeah, but don't forget.
Originally, I don't know if a piece was put in there recently, but that's been up there a long time.
Well,
So
as far
it
as
was
the
trying to see it fixed.
I didn't really think.
Maybe you need to dig up another piece of that pipe.
I know, another piece of that pipe, we should probably ask Public
Those
Works.
people,
If there's another leak, grab a chunk of that pipe, cause it was
Or at
astounding.
least some photographs or evidence of that.
Anyway, yeah, I think.
Why it's breaking down lines.
It's been chosen as it's set already, and there's no wiggle room, there's no process to move it now.
Well, If we move it out of the basic alignment that it's in right now, we would have to have full engineered drawings done again. And so it would cost you another 8 to 10% of the project cost. And
Okay,
that adds up really quick.
and when was that, was there ever public input on that engineering drawing process, or is
I
that not
don't
typical?
know.
I don't remember.
I don't know how the project is developed.
I don't remember that if there was on that one. It was discussed at meetings because of getting the money to do it and the fact that there's the design of the Western Loop and the need, but I'm not, these maps have not been put out to the public.
So we don't know if the public was consulted on the new engineering line.
Again, I don't know that these maps were put in an agenda.
Is it?
I'm not sure.
typical To be consulted for a new engineering line?
No, I mean, not personally, but it would, a public meeting. But there's certainly been lots of discussion associated with respect and this project.
I mean,
This is West
in
Loop,
my
not new.
experience, it's usually engineers and staff that come up with the most.
Yeah.
Feasible direction for the project, and then it kickoffs is when you start inviting.
The people that are there.
Yeah, and I don't know when the idea to put it in the right of way happened, but there is logic to that.
Yeah, I think that was part of
Not
the
much.
whole original thing, because you can't have it under you can't have a leak in somebody's driveway or under their greenhouse and go fix it. And
Well,
that's,
that you can do, but if you're tearing up,
no, but we don't want, right now, when there's a leak on private property, it's a bit of a problem.
Yeah.
To get on there to fix it.
Sure, but driveway maybe is a poor choice since we're gonna be going through a lot of driveways in the right of way.
No, and I mean like a greenhouse, let's say somebody.
It goes under somebody's garage or something.
Yeah.
That's fine. I
Yeah.
guess what I'm trying to get at is perhaps there's some statement of logic as to why we got here and how we're here. And like that the town was trying to minimize impact in the future to private property by choosing the right of way.
that is the reason.
Yes, and I understood that stating that reason as part of the deployment of information could be helpful.
I would bet it's in the text of this whole proposal.
Right, but has that been directly communicated to?
In the beginning, there was lots of communication about the project and the right of way, that's no surprise, because it makes the most
So
sense.
yes, because of
But-
this.
But like this map, Stefan had maps in his quarterly reports and would talk about it. And there were, but nobody's seen all these maps.
Right, do we know how much private property is avoided by this? Like, could we say, hey, we're avoiding going over X amount of private?
Yeah, we could-
by doing this?
We could probably come up with the map that shows where it is right now.
Yeah.
Well, you
I
want
think
a
that would-
cumulative, you were interested in the cumulative, how much
That's
private.
the point of like
Yeah,
proving that we
information.
are trying to do this so that it's better, since we're interfering less with private property.
Yeah.
How much better are we doing by choosing the right of way? Cause still 28 is a lot of private, you know.
I totally agree with that, and I would also detail what Greg was saying about, we will. Or instead of open rip, I don't know, maybe that's over promising, but say
Where
we're gonna.
where we can do it, it's more expensive to bore, but
Of
we're
course.
doing it where you can't easily do it.
Right, like if there's an orchard, you're gonna pour under the
Oh.
orchard. But I think
Okay.
communicating that we wanna make sure we're respectful of, existing. Infrastructure, maybe that's not the right word, but,
All that's been engineered.
yeah, the plans already include where
Yeah.
directional boarding. No, I know, I'm saying to communicate this to the private property owner, like we are going to be approaching this with sensitivity to what exists on the land. We're gonna, opt for boring when it's appropriate to protect resources and infrastructure. Really conveying like, we're thinking about this really strategically, we're being sensitive, we're not just like. This is where the pipe goes, get out of the way, and if you want water, this is what you gotta deal with it, that's not really
And I don't think it's been like
generating goodwill.
But Stefan has his hand up, I'm gonna have Stefan add in. Stefan, can you give us some more background, please?
Yeah, so we've held public meetings with these property owners in that very same room where the engineers led that discussion. We got very valuable feedback and plans were adjusted before they were finalized. So it has been communicated to those property owners, and I believe Respec has a sign-in sheet of who actually attended. That room was pretty full of those property owners. And what they discussed was like alignment of the pipe, where their service lines would be. We found that there was a septic system right up next to the county right of way, actually encroached a little on the county's right of way, and so things have been adjusted for that. We also informed every one of those property owners that no matter what happens, the town has budgeted to put it back in better or the same or better shape, their properties, than what they found it. We also found like a stone wall along the right of way, and in that specific location, it was directional drilled, and that's been budgeted. Those discussions have happened, and as far as the county permitting, Greg, you should have an email from me, and you'll need to read that. The county engineer has already responded and has asked to meet with you. It looks like things are in various stages of completion, but it would make sense, in my professional opinion, it would make sense to have another meeting. Again, I had actually suggested that about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, that property owners are called together to meet again to go over this stuff. So it's, as Greg has said, we are getting close to crunch time. It is kind of unfair to contractors to keep pushing things off without releasing them. And it may be worth it to go out to bid again. But in that time, those right of ways and those easement documents, we had a tough time with Respec trying to get finalized documents from them. I know Nikki had gone round and round with her team trying to get Respec to come up with accurate documents. In those cases where they found names incorrect, our team found them and asked the engineers to make those changes. We weren't putting together easements. That was the responsibility of the engineering team. And that's, we found lots of lots of errors throughout this entire process. And if Nikki were here, she could tell you how many hours she spent trying to do those reviews. So as I said, it makes sense to have another meeting, especially with these property owners.
It helps. Thank you.
That's something we talked about today when we met with Jordan and
Oh.
Eric.
Hey, Jordan, thank you. I don't know if he has anything to add, but yeah. So it kind of becomes time is of the essence.
Yes, and we want to get as efficient as possible.
Well, hopefully that email from the county is good news.
I don't know if that came in today, but
No, yeah, but it sounds like that's good news.
they would set up a desk lunch.
Yeah, no, I know.
We've heard a couple proposals being talked about, one that Stefan brought up about another meeting with property owners, and then the other one we were talking about putting together a site or a page on the website with information. I'm just curious how, Greg, you think we should proceed, given the suggestions on the table?
I think these are good suggestions. We need to improve public awareness. The people who may not even be impacted directly by this might have an interest in knowing that this line is being put in and it will improve the service, or at least the reliability of the service over time, because the line is getting old.
So there is an agenda item on Tuesday, which is the trustees have to approve essentially letting go the single contractor that met all the requirements to let them know that they're not gonna be hired and that we're gonna go out again. The wording will be in the.
Yeah, because we
And
don't
that has to
have
come from
these
trustees.
documents and we just don't feel
Yeah.
comfortable wording.
So this was kind of a precursor to that content that's gonna be asked for in the, or the question to be answered.
Just
Motion
out
to
of-
be made.
Curiosity, where did the fee come in as compared to the engineer's probable cost?
A fee.
Oh, you mean the cost,
Our
the single, or
proposal,
their
the
proposal.
single response.
Just offhand, I don't recall exactly what the difference is.
but it'll be, the proposal's pretty massive, isn't it?
Well, the contract is, well,
The proposal
there
they
isn't a
submitted,
contract yet.
the proposal, the single, we probably don't wanna put that up in public, we shouldn't,
Not yet,
we
no.
can't. So anyway. I'm not sure we can even say what the amount was,
I'm just
I don't know
curious,
about contract
yeah,
law.
with respect to the engineer's opinion.
Mhm.
In addition to the two items that Calla mentioned, I think we also discuss having the attorney communicate with the landowners. Which I think is probably a good idea to show seriousness and then also hopefully professionalize some of the communication maybe a little more. And I'm also happy to help you craft a letter with that language that we've been sort of throwing out here today. Greg, if that would be helpful.
Oh, Stefan, go ahead.
Yeah, I didn't hear that, you guys had recommended the attorney reach out to these property owners. That's, anytime attorneys get involved, even as nice as Clay can be, it sends people's red flags up. To me, it would make more sense to assign a staff member to do that along with, the county or, somebody from Respect's team, just to help coordinate that communication between them. My concern is that if you're having an attorney reach out to these property owners, they're going to think that they need an attorney to communicate back with that attorney. So I didn't know that that was a recommendation, and my professional opinion is you probably shouldn't do that. The engineers can communicate pretty well with Jordan or Derek, and Jordan and Derek have lived in this community for all their life. So I'm pretty sure that they already have met with some of these people, or some of these property owners. I know they have, and have a pretty good relationship with them.
My concern about that was that if that seems to have already been what was happening and it's nothing, the results were not great. I'm wondering if there's a middle ground where Jordan and the engineers can invite the property owners to a meeting and have them go over it.
We are going to do that.
Right, and then the attorney communicates after the meetings, there's some personal, interface with it. Because I'm concerned that what this was just suggested is what happened before, and to Mr. Sun's point, staff don't have dedicated time to do this.
See what Jordan has to say. Jordan, go ahead.
Okay, sorry, there's kind of a lot to unpack here. It has been a long process. Just to start from the beginning, we wanted to go more on the right of way so that we aren't going through property owner's property, because sometimes at 2 or 3 in the morning, when somebody is calling it out, the only access is through their neighbor's property. So we're knocking on their doors, letting them know, hey, we're going to be banging around with large equipment. We might be jackhammering, anything that's involved in this water break. And after the water break, of course, there's a 2.5 weeks to even 3 weeks to get that ground so unsaturated that we can actually get it back to looking normal. So that's one of the reasons for wanting to put it on the right of way. We did have a lot of problems with the easements. So we have handed them out to the property owners like 3 or 4 times, and they're the ones coming back, which is like, hey, this isn't right. So yeah, that's caused a lot of mistrust from them. We've tried to do our best to be like, oh no, it's right this time. But I think even today we found a couple things that were incorrect with them. It's
Just with a lot of them, or just a handful?
I would actually probably say a handful. Because some of them are saying that they've actually turned them in, but with so much turnaround, we're trying to find where these signed easements are. That's been a little bit of a challenge. So we're doing kind of some clerical work, just trying to find where maybe they got put after they were signed originally.
Possibly there's still in email accounts we don't have access to.
I do think they are perceptive to wanting a new water line. It's just that the process has been just as hard on them as it has been on us. That it's kind of like, but our water's still going. And the shape that that pipeline is, I've personally been on probably 87 breaks along that pipeline. And even though it's just kind of like a routine clamp and everything's still running, we even do it live. They're not understanding that if there's a major break, it could be days that we're out and time that we're getting. I don't even really know the best way. The way that we had talked with Greg about it and trying to explain it is actually many of the points you guys are hitting with today. We just want what's best for the town. If we could get something out to them, we did talk about having another meeting with them. Like maybe we can just send out a letter that's like, hey, could you guys be here? We'll send you out a Zoom link. Or we're even available to talk on your time whenever the engineer is around. But that's kind of where we're at on it. Just it's hard to get people to understand, and we don't want to leave them without water. Or the whole town without water, since this supplies the entire town.
Yeah, Jordan, I so appreciate your sentiment and your just ability to keep working on things and keep it going. And just here we are and we're gonna move forward. I am deeply concerned that we don't know where previously signed or not signed easements are. That speaks to a lack of organization internally that is concerning for me, and not trying to point any fingers. But I am concerned that we fix that process, and perhaps part of hiring an attorney to ensure that we have proper documentation and that it's organized properly is why we need to pursue the recommendation from Mr. Sun.
Sam?
I was just gonna say, so this is the first time I've heard about this. I actually have access to emails both past and present, so I'd be happy to search archives as well.
So let me ask you a question. Is it anticipated that these easements will come in electronically with all, because they have to be notarized? So wouldn't you be getting an original copy and not a scanned copy? And I'm just asking the question, are you looking for electronic or do you need paper?
Either one.
But is either one okay with the notary and everything? If you need wet signatures or can they be e-signatures?
We've got some that have come in. Email.
So I guess the reason I'm asking is where do you look? Are you thinking they're in people's email or are they in a file somewhere? But so this is an attorney question. What do you need from these people? Does an easement have to have an actual paper, a wet signature? And the wet notary stamp to be considered received? I don't know.
We don't have all original signatures.
So, do we, as far as we know, that's okay. But do you see the reason I'm asking? Are they missing in paper or are they missing in email? And
well, just in staff turnover, it's possible
Misplaced.
that one or two of them came in and we just have not had access to it.
but you don't know if they're in email, so you need to look in paper files and go through emails.
I'm sorry, Greg, have you checked with Joanne? She was the one that was doing all the notary.
Oh, she would have that in her book. You have to notice each one. Okay.
Yeah, so I guess that just speaks to, again, what's gonna be the formal process for storing and organizing the information, both hard copy and digital going forward, so Jordan is not going out to a property owner with an old thing when we have a newer thing, or, you know, just that we're organized internally. It sounds like Sam has access to a lot of this. I would just request that staff consider proposing to us a system for tracking these things, so we have, and I know information management is a challenge for all organizations. So perhaps it's a good time to update our system.
Sounds like Joanne's notary book. If they all came here. If that's true.
Yeah.
So Stefan, you think everybody did actually use Joanne, or they didn't go to the bank?
I'm pretty sure everyone came in, and Jordan, you were directing them, or you or Derek were directing them to go to Joanne. And Jordan, I think you actually got some of those signature pages, correct?
Yes, I do have some of those signature pages. Those are the ones we took down to Greg today. But I believe like the coal company, I can't remember who they now were bought out by. I believe theirs came in, and the clocks themselves, where it actually is running across a large amount of their private property to complete the loop, they are claiming that they have already turned it in, and it simply is kind of a paper pushing kind of thing where we need to look through where those files could have been kept, because it's possible those files were from 2 public works directors ago.
Derek, did you have something you wanted to add?
Well, I'm the other notary in town.
Oh.
I have not notarized any of them. And Ruben, I guess now can do it, but I haven't had any, I don't remember Joanne. Cause usually she asks me if I want to do it. Anybody coming in for that, so her book is, yeah, she would have it tomorrow.
So it looks like a little bit of a investigation, a roundup, yeah. Cause there might be more than we think.
The easements have to be registered with the county. Don't they? I mean, in Arizona they do, and that's, I've dedicated many easements, and I sign with a notary, and then it has to get registered with the county.
So, but who would do the registering, the town?
We would, because we have these.
Yeah,
But the county would have a copy with.
yeah, but if the town,
If they've gone through the process.
yeah, but if the town hasn't submitted any.
I would be the one that would be reporting them, and I have not seen any of the papers ever, so can you guarantee?
Okay, so it's time to put this puzzle together.
Yeah.
If there's another topic on here, if people are ready to go to it, otherwise, you know, more questions, of course, I'm just.
Mayor, I'd like to make
Yes.
something.
Sure,
So
and Jordan too.
I'm available, Greg. Guys, all you have to do is call me, send me a text message. I'm pretty responsive. I know a couple of trustees have sent me messages. The mayor has sent me messages, and I respond pretty quickly. I'm just waiting for that. So if you guys have a question, feel free to answer it. While I'm not there in person, I am still devoted to this town. I live on 3rd Street, guys. So please, if you have anything, feel free to reach out to me.
No, Stefan, in your management, did you keep track of how many touches were made to each of the property owners who would require leases from?
I couldn't hear that question.
In your process of managing the first part of this project, were you recording how many touches were made to these property owners? How many points of outreach or times they were reached out to and by whom?
Now, that's not a metric that we were keeping track of. It's something that we could go back and look at through various emails, or even some of the documents that perhaps Sam or Ruben have from where we actually had meetings with property owners, and through responses from Jordan, Derek, Corey, and Nikki on who they actually contacted, because I believe they did it all in person. But those weren't metrics that we were keeping track of on touches, no.
So perhaps part of going forward in terms of restoring trust with the town would be to create a system whereby anyone who may be interfacing with the property owners is aware of the touches that have been made in the past. And those are communicated to that person, so the property owner is not dealing with someone else from the town who doesn't know what's going on.
Right.
like assigning a point of contact to each individual and then tracking those communications. Would be a
Or some other means of just keeping track of who's contacted who and how many times and what about, so that there's a record of communication with that property owner. And that we are able to adequately acknowledge and respond to that record. To Jordan's point about it being difficult for them. In the process, that could be something that would be helpful, I think, for us to deploy going forward.
And let me have Jordan, your hands up.
Yeah, I just want to agree with everything that said, like, record keeping does need a little bit of help on our end, especially because of how much turnover we've had. What went to one person's email might not have went to everybody else's email, and what got put into everybody else's box might not have got into everybody else's box. So it's something where it is going to be a lot of paper shuffling and everything, and it is a huge task that we have to take on, almost bigger than our everyday tasks. But we are devoted to getting back in there and trying to find as-built for things that might have even happened 10 years ago. It is something that we are looking into.
You said as-built. What do you mean by that?
And the project's,
Just
when the project's done, you have the engineer.
Well, no, he was saying from 10 years ago. I just didn't know did you say as-built from 10 years ago? I wasn't sure if that's what you said and what the context was. Because as-built after it's done, of course. But were you talking about previous as-built, Jordan?
yes, I was. 10 years was just kind of a number I threw out, but it could go anywhere from 10 years to 75 years to maybe even 7 years ago.
And you're referring to for knowing where the pipe is located on this private property? Is that what you're referring to?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Stefan, the mayor suggested that maybe since we don't have a complete record of the easements, that there could potentially be more than 5 secured. Like, based on your recollection, how many do you think that we have, and where would those documents be secured?
Yeah, I just answered that in a little bit ago. So I don't know the exact number. You know, I stepped away a couple weeks ago. But Joanne was doing all of our notary. And we utilize a system called Laserfiche. All of these projects have been put into Laserfiche. I'm wondering if anybody has actually used that system. I know, Sam, you harped on us to start using it. I know we put up a construction folder in Laserfiche. And I'm just wondering if anybody has checked that to see if those documents are there.
He's looking right now.
For the tank relining project, we used Laserfiche pretty regularly. Jordan actually uploaded his journals and logs to it. All of our meeting minutes went in there. It became our digital repository. And I'm assuming it's what Sam wants to continue using for official record keeping. And I would suggest that it be done for all of these construction projects. We can give out licenses even to engineers who can put things in, not necessarily take things out, but put things in. And I would just recommend that that's the system that continues to be used.
Thank you for bringing that system to our collective attention.
Because a lot of people have access to that, right? In terms of staff.
We're just getting to the point where we're starting to move things into it, so it's the official thing, but yeah, right now it's stuck. There's a couple of engineers or contractors that have access through this. But yeah, it hasn't gone fully live yet. This has been an ongoing project,
I
so.
haven't been able to get into it.
Oh, you haven't?
I'm trying. So
You're supposed to work on
Is
it.
that still supported by the, whatever tonic or
Astonish.
yeah,
Yes, they're aware of that.
so they would be able to help Administrator Sun gain access to it?
I can help him, we just didn't get a chance to do it today.
Well, I'm wondering, while they're looking, do you want to move to topic number 2?
Just want to summarize this. Mr. Sun, would you be so kind as to summarize the next steps that we've illustrated in this, for this topic, including the agenda item for next meeting?
the next step is, as I said, we talked about this afternoon of having another meeting with property owners and possibly to make it more convenient, sending them a Zoom link where they can get on it like this instead of coming to the meeting. And having respect on the call so that they can ask questions about what's going on for the project. So getting more information out is a good thing, and that's one of the things we're talking about. Doing more things on the website, which was brought up here, I think that's good to get more information out. And I don't think we had much discussion today about Laserfish. Like I said, that's been a little frustrating lately because it won't even let me type my name.
Joy.
So I don't know what's going on with the version I have on the computer. It's been a problem. And I really think at this point, because we do not have the easements in hand that we need, and even if we have a few, it's still probably under 10. That the best direction at this point at the next meeting is to reject the bid and move on and get these easements done and then rebid the project. And I think there's actually advantage in doing that, in addition to not even thinking about the problems we have here, but if we bid it in, say, October, November, we're probably going to get more bids. And that just makes it more competitive and brings in a better price. So I think that's something that is a benefit. I don't see it being as much of a problem as having an attorney involved, just because people do pay attention to that. And we need to get these done, and we need to have as much communication with the property owners as possible to make sure they know what we're proposing to do on their property, not just generally for the project. Because if this line is running in the right of way, it doesn't make a lot of sense that we need easements to run the main line. It's gotta be easements for service lines.
And then maybe that one crossover.
Well, the one exception there, yeah.
Is that the only crossover you're aware of?
Yes.
Thank you so much. And Clerk, Better, what do you think the best course of action is in terms of consolidating all of the known easement agreements with these property owners and compiling any sort of historical reference to touches made to said property owners?
I honestly think the construction management folders that have been set up in Laserfish would be the best way to do it. That's why it was put in there, so that across departments and with outside contractors, they were all able to keep all of their stuff in one place so that nobody had a piece here and a piece there. It's one of the reasons why we pushed for Laserfish. Just because the way it's set up, once it's done, I mean, not only can we keep things that shouldn't be public knowledge or go out to everybody separate from things, but still have things all in one spot. So I'll continue working with them. I haven't found anything in Laserfish about this particular project. We have other projects in there. I'm gonna go through email archives, and that's my next second place to go to see if I can find any that might be in prior email boxes or whatever. And
Do you think
then,
it's wise to ask all other staff who may have had touches to go through theirs as well?
oh, absolutely.
And do you, in terms of your recommendations on Laserfish, do you plan to construct some folders where people could drop that information, or how do you foresee?
They already have that.
Uh,
So they just need to utilize it. In their project management thing, there just needs to be a project folder for this one. We have all the stuff for the 2 million gallon tank. And other projects that were ongoing, there isn't one for this,
So
so.
you would make it and just instruct people to drop their stuff.
I can make it too, so, but I would happily make it for them, yeah.
I think perhaps coming from you might be a good way to understand the centrality of the need for organization, and then while there's a whole folder, there may be separate folders for individual property owners to document touches or communications with those property owners, so that it's easily referenced and not just one big folder with a ton of emails dumped in it. Just some information architecture could be easy, take more time now, but enable some ease in the future when searching for history.
It's also a new system. Other people are starting to get more used to using it. It was mostly Ruben and I at first and stuff like that. And so it's only been within the last, I would say, year. Yeah, the rest of stuff have gotten into it. So it's also new. A lot of people are still going back to SharePoint as opposed to.
Totally. When I did information systems for the city and county of San Francisco, we had 58 agencies and 56,000 employees. I had to hire interns to go sit down with people and teach them how to log in and be available to ask them when they forgot how to log in and show them how to change the document type. And so I totally understand the amount of work that's dedicated to that, and appreciate it if there's, any possibility to have that extra support for staff so they can really proficiently adopt and utilize the new system. And I totally understand how much time it takes.
Oh, I wasn't saying that. I'm just saying this is what you're asking for. It's already a work in progress. What we have identified during this is that I need to spend a little bit of extra time working with people on this particular part.
Thank
So, find a need for it.
Thanks.
Okay, any more on this? You wanna move to the other topic?
Seems like a lot for today.
Yeah. So. You wanna go ahead, Greg, with the,
In a meeting with trustee Husband week, 2 weeks ago, I can't remember that was. I asked if she had ever heard of the concept of a parking lot. And I have seen those used very effectively by boards over the years. When issues come up that are not on the agenda, but are issues that a board member wants to address. We have newsprint board there, and you just write it on the board so that you have an idea of what you would like to have talked about in the future. One of the things that's important with those, though, is just like other agenda items that are on your agenda every couple weeks, we need to have background so that we can produce information for the other board members, not just a title of a project or a need. So in some cases, we might be able to resolve an issue without having board action, depending on how the subject is addressed and what the needs are of it. And then we can just have a report rather than an action item to do something. But I need to have, when you put something on the parking lot, I need to have connection with you, discussion, so that I have some idea what the background is. I've received some of those already, which I appreciate. And it does help move a program or a need forward. So that's all I ask, is that if you put something on there, that you reach out to me a day or two afterwards so that we can have a discussion of what it is, and its background.
and are you talking literally putting on that sheet or?
Yeah. Because
Okay,
then the audience can see what you brought up.
gotcha.
It's again, better communication of what you would like to see in the future.
Just need a pen.
Yeah, I think we can swing the pin.
Is this something we just come in and do at the beginning of the meeting or in the meeting or?
Could be anything,
Anything.
anytime you want to do it, but if an issue comes up under discussion that you would like to approach in a different way, or it reminds you of some subject you hadn't thought of before, that's what that's for. Because it shouldn't be brought up and discussed and a decision made if it's not on the agenda. People don't have time to prepare if that happens. including the board members.
Thoughts, questions?
What do we currently have in the parking lot?
Sorry.
4 things.
Like stuff when you're under pressure.
Yeah.
Fine. Like sometimes. Just-
Citizen free speech resolution, a data center ban. And moratorium. Yeah, I wrote ban, but, okay. And. A possible work session item regarding the STR issue. The thing that I would suggest with that one is the committee just met for the first time tonight for a while. And we don't have all of the board members that we'd like to have, so a big part of that discussion tonight was putting out a public process to attract more people. I think there's 3 that submitted them last year that may still be interested, but we're going to advertise at the same time and see if we can attract more, so it's not just a choice. And I just don't think it right now is a good time to have a discussion about this until the committee has at least some opportunity to make some headway. So it's not that there's anything wrong with the issue, but I just ask that we hold off on it so that we can get some information from the committee that's there. And then maybe have a discussion about what that proposal is. Does that make sense? So those are the issues that are on the right now.
So 3, not 4.
4, I think it is.
There's the free speech, the data center.
Free is up right now, because the other one was just the discussion. We talked about having an administrative process regarding backyard cottages. If you recall in the last meeting, I mentioned that the Board of Zoning Adjustment asked if that is something that could be done administratively rather than an appeal process to that board. Because the thing that they were looking at more than anything is if someone is just doing an in-property renovation, they're not expanding the property, they're not changing it in any way, they're not encroaching more on the setbacks or anything. That is something that can be done administratively rather than going through an entire process. Because if they don't need a new tap,
Right.
that is not something that violates the moratorium in any way. So then the only issues are if it's property that is non-conforming and has been there a long time, which I understand there's quite a few of those in town, like backyard cottages, I call them. That as long as they're not changing the building in any way and they're just doing some internal renovations in order to make it more usable. Or just improve the condition, I think that's something the town probably would desire to have rather than have things that are not maintained well. So where it changes is if it's something somebody wants to do where they're looking to get a new tap or something like that. Discussion of like if someone wants to put in a new kitchen or something.
Yeah, and we may
changes use.
We're probably drifting from our work session topic, unfortunately, but what you're describing is that was a parking lot question that came up through the ZBOA. So it is a potential agenda item, if nothing else for information only, for the trustees and the public to hear what the code says about these things. So, and I think that's,
And we're
Gets
checking
you
in
the-
with those and other issues, and we'll have something for the next.
so things can, so the parking lot gets to a topic that's either the public's brought up or a trustee. I wouldn't do parking lot right now. Because I wouldn't add anything new, because it's not part of this work session. But
Yeah.
I
at
think
the,
you're gonna have time. It's
Yeah.
not the whole point of it. She could go up and write it up for.
she could write it right now, but I don't think there should be discussion. That's what I'm saying. But just like the discussion we just had on one of them.
Yeah, I wouldn't have
probably
went too
wasn't-
far.
Yeah, we probably shouldn't have done that, because we should, agendize what the discussion's about. But you could write something up there, but I don't think we should talk about it.
Okay.
Just because it's not part of this work session. So. But anybody have any other questions on the parking lot? Thoughts?
Thank you for suggesting it.
With that, anything else on these two subjects, or is everybody about ready to call it a night?
Good.
Okay. Everybody have a nice night. It's not, I guess I'm adjourning our work session. How's that?